It seems like Hollywood is in a very cynical, narcissistic era, where respect for the great franchises of the past has become something of a lost art, where studio executives view treating an IP with reverence not as a rule, but a suggestion to be ignored so they can change and twist it into something that suits their own political whims rather than be mindful of what made it popular in the first place, where the very idea of someone signing over the rights to their own original work to be bastardized by some soulless showbiz window licker like Kathleen Kennedy, Alex Kurtzman, or, God help us all, Greg Berlanti would be enough to make most creators break out in hives. I mean, let's face it, there have probably been more misses than hits in the last few years, and it's not like the stuff coming down the pike in the future is inspiring a lot of confidence.
Weird.
So imagine my surprise when the same studio responsible for that thing Netflix called Cowboy Bebop came out with a live-action adaptation of One Piece, which has not only been a big hit with fans, but also was somehow actually good? That's what I kept hearing anyway. I saw the trailer when it came out a while back and quickly forgot about it, thought it looked really silly and just not my thing. But the more buzz I heard about the show, the more I started to think that Netflix might have learned something from the Bebop debacle and done something cool here. So I got curious. Granted, I don't know anything about One Piece, and I wasn't about to start the manga or the anime now because holy crap, that was intimidating. So I wasn't sure if I'd be able to follow it, but it might be worth making a video about, so why not? Before starting the show, I watched some behind-the-scenes stuff, and it was all pretty encouraging. The showrunners and actors were big fans of the material. There were no Rachel Zegler's in there. They seemed like a humble, genuine bunch of people who had a real love for One Piece. All the interviews I saw were them talking about how it was really important to them that they honor the creator of the manga and do justice to the anime. They were working hard to make the characters look like they're supposed to look, as much as that can be done in live action, I guess. And the guy who plays the main character, he's like the anti-Rachel Zegler. He went to Japan and met the creator of the manga and was completely fangasming over it and talking about how much he loves the story and the character. They did a video where the cast reacted to seeing the trailer for the first time, and he cried when he saw it because it meant so much to him. And the whole cast was like that, talking about the manga and who their favorite characters were and blah blah blah. And it was just really nice to see that they all actually like the story they're adapting and have an appreciation for it and really care about recreating the events of it and getting it right. And if you want people to support an adaptation of a manga or a cartoon or whatever, that's how it's f***ing done! For some additional context about what to do versus what not to do when adapting an animated project like this one to live action, take a look at this little compilation I put together, and I think you'll see what I mean.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
One Piece means so much to me. I just feel so grateful.
She's not gonna be saved by the prince.
She's not gonna be saved by the prince, and she's not gonna be dreaming about true love.
And me and the entire live action team admire you so much.
She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Playing Luffy is a dream come true.
The reality is that the cartoon was made 85 years ago.
And I will always do my best to bring him to live action.
It's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
The original IP material is the thing that makes it so great, and all of us want to honor that.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. So we didn't do that this time.
I hope existing One Piece fans see the love that went into this.
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie.
The spirit of One Piece is so strong in this.
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut, who knows?
We're bringing the best parts of the manga to life.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again.
I love your character, Luffy, and he means so much to me.
The ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures.
Luffy and you inspire me to be the best version of myself that I can be.
Doesn't sound like something a little kid would like.
君以外想像できない今のところ。
Was terrified of it, never revisited Snow White again.
I grew up with One Piece, and Zoro has always been my favorite character.
I watched it for the first time in probably 16, 17 years when I was doing this film.
It's an honor to be wearing those swords.
When we came to reimagining the actual role of Snow White,
You are the real Luffy, I'm sorry.
Oh.
it became about the fairest of them all, meaning who is the most just and who can become a fantastic leader.
He just has so many messages.
about dreams and friendship and courage.
And she's the proactive one, and she's the one who set the terms.
I will always do my best to make you all proud.
Is what makes it so relevant to where we are today.
I'm a narcissist.
I'm a fan.
I might have gone a little overboard with that. Fingers crossed YouTube doesn't strike it down. So that was enough to get me on board, because they had a real love for the property, they cared about doing it right, and seemed to have their heads screwed on straight, and I think we need to support projects like that, so I was rooting for them to pull this off. Then I watched the show. The fact that Netflix One Piece even exists at all is kind of astonishing if you think about it. Even after what must have been a very pricey failure with Netflix Bebop, they still pumped an insane amount of money into this project with no bankable name talent in front of or behind the camera, and charged the same people who screwed the pooch with Netflix Bebop with bringing it to the screen. So how One Piece even got made in the first place, I couldn't tell you. And all things considered, it had no business being any good at all, and yet, here we are. Weird. So, me being a complete One Piece newbie, never read the manga, never seen the anime, there are still some things I'm not totally clear on after watching all 8 episodes, but the gist of it is, it's a fantasy land lorded over by the world government, which may or may not be corrupt or oppressive, I'm not sure, and there's an ongoing power struggle between the military, which has a lot of shady people in it, and pirates, some of whom oppose the government, and some of whom are evil dirtbags who make shady deals to keep the military out of their business. The show begins with the King of the Pirates, I guess that's a title that can be bestowed upon anyone who earns it, being executed, and all the other pirates sailing off to find a great treasure, the One Piece, that he hid somewhere out in the world so they can become the new King of the Pirates, and our heroes are one of these pirate crews searching for the One Piece and trying to do good and help people along the way. Also, there are mutant fishmen and magic fruits that give you superpowers if you eat them. It's a lot. And apparently, between the anime and the manga, there's like 2,000 episodes of this thing. So I'm guessing there's a ton of information that got simplified here. And just to be upfront with you guys, I don't understand everything yet. There's a lot of stuff that they gloss over, like how the government works and what the deal with the superpower fruit is. They're gonna have to explain those things better at some point, but the show's a hit, so it looks like they'll have the time to do it. Generally speaking, Netflix One Piece is not perfect. The world building is spotty, not everything is explained great. The sets are enormous, but certain things about the production lack attention to detail. For example, in one episode, a character gets gashed open during a sword fight, and his friends are freaking out. Oh my god, he's losing so much blood! There's blood everywhere! There's almost no blood at all. It stopped bleeding on its own almost immediately. It's a flesh wound, not even that deep. Just stitch him up, he'll be fine. Did they intentionally not show a lot of blood because the anime didn't show a lot of blood? I don't know, but it was weird. And there's a number of bits like that where someone just wasn't paying attention or some details slipped through the cracks. It's nothing that's gonna break the show, but you will notice these things. Also, some of the stories could have used more thought put into them. There are some weirdly obvious plot holes that could have been fixed with a quick rewrite. Like in another episode, our heroes are fighting a bad guy who has super speed, and he has the upper hand until he stops using his powers and fights them at normal speed. Why? Because the good guys need to win, and if he fights them at super speed, then they have no chance. Situations like that will pop up from time to time. So there are things about the show that you can poke holes in pretty easily, but I don't want to do that in this case. I feel pretty forgiving of these flaws. At the end of the day, those things didn't matter to me that much because of everything else that the show gets right. For starters, the sets are gigantic, and there's a lot of them too. And it's ridiculous how much money they must have spent on these things, getting them to look like set pieces from the manga, when they keep moving around and might only use each one for like 2 episodes. In more than one case, they built a set of an entire town or some evil fishman headquarters just so they could destroy it after a big fight scene or something. We wouldn't see them for very long, but I guess if these locations were from the manga or the anime, they just had to have them in there. In fact, this might be the best example I've seen of a live-action project that not only acknowledges that it's based on an anime, but loves it. You see it in the wardrobe, characters wearing really kooky outfits that you'd never see in anything but anime, having really exaggerated mannerisms that feel right out of an anime. On paper, these things really shouldn't work in live action, and I'm not saying that they're not awkward sometimes, but they do work because the show f***ing owns it. From minute one, it's anime tropes, anime logic, anime physics. They don't try to fight it or turn it into something it's not, and they don't try to fix it or make it less problematic or update it for modern audiences.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937.
Oh, shut your frickin' pie hole. Instead, they embrace how utterly bonkers this story and these characters are and just go with it. And that accounts for a lot. This really comes out in the fight scenes. People are calling out their finishing moves, running up walls, doing flying kicks like they've got a jetpack strapped to them. A dude can get punched in the chest, go flying back like 50 feet, and he's totally fine. Not a mark on him, because it's anime physics. That's the kind of stuff that happens. So action scenes can and do get pretty wacky, especially when some of these people have superpowers, and they're not embarrassed by that at all. They're having fun with it, and there's a lot of charm in that. Yeah, it was weird at first, but I got on board with this pretty quickly. It really does feel like an anime in live action. And speaking of stuff that probably shouldn't work as well as it does, the main character. This guy, Monkey D. Luffy, in different hands, he could so easily have been super annoying. And I mean annoying enough to tank the entire show. With how he goes on about this King of the Pirates stuff like every 5 minutes. Yeah, dude, I heard you the first 10 times. You'd think his shtick would get old real fast. But this dude is just so positive and so earnest and cares so much about helping people and protecting the innocent and doing the right thing, even when it might not be the smartest thing to do. They make it really, really hard to root against him. He's just such a good person and has this genuineness that makes you want to get behind him. And I don't think that would work if the actor wasn't as invested in the role as he is. And all the other characters are really likable. They don't pull any stupid political stunts, so men get to act like men, women get to look like women, nobody gets crapped on, they all have their own stories, their own flaws, and their own dreams that they want to achieve. And they're all sympathetic too. There's a lot of heart with these people. I didn't expect it with the wacky tone they were going for, but they make you feel for these guys. A lot of their backstories are surprisingly poignant, or even tragic in some cases, even if they seem like they're one-dimensional or just comedic fodder at a glance. And they never sacrifice the fun when they get to that stuff either. It's all just part of the package. And while we're on the characters, you know something really crazy about this? There's almost no romance at all. Maybe in a side story once in a while. Character A has a crush on character B, whatever, but it's all really innocent and they don't focus on it. And the showrunners talked about that. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but they said they deliberately chose to not focus on romance because they wanted the focus to be on the story. They're not concerned with the shipping stuff. It's just a story about a group of friends going on a big adventure together. And goddamn, there was something really refreshing about that. Putting a bunch of attractive people together and having them not hook up because there's more interesting stuff to do, like opposing a corrupt military force and finding lost treasure. Isn't that a novel idea? And it's not like they're changing something that was supposed to be a love story into something else, I don't think. It seems like they just wanted to focus on the most interesting stuff the IP had. And there are some jackass woke pundits out there who were criticizing the show and the writers for not getting political in that way, for not adding more sexuality or identity stuff, for not making the main character gay or asexual or whatever, and instead just leaving all that alone. No, screw that! Leaving it alone is what made this good, because it didn't get dragged down by all that current year ideologically driven bullshit and just told a fun adventure story instead. That was all I wanted from this, and by God, they delivered. In fact, apart from the occasional side story and some pretty innocent things here and there, there's almost no sexuality in this show. And you know what that means? No gender politics, no feminism, no identity garbage, no shipping nonsense, no girl boss crap. Women and men are treated the same way. A person's worth is determined by their character, their actions, their bravery, the skills they bring to the table, and how they treat others. As it f***ing should be. Isn't that amazing? And it's not just about the gender stuff. That applies to everything. Like, the main villains of the season are the mutant fishmen, and there's a bit about how they resent humans because humans kept them as slaves in the past or something. Now, a different show would have latched onto that and tried to make us feel bad for the evil fish terrorists, tried to justify their actions, try to make us side with them and sympathize with them as they're murdering and pillaging and doing all kinds of awful shit because they were slaves in the past and they're products of a broken system, and isn't that horrible? But they don't do that here. The slavery is mentioned, it's something that happened in the past, but otherwise it's pretty simple. They're acting like villains, so they're treated like villains. It was pretty surprising, actually. They don't try to muddy the waters or make things all morally gray and complicated. It's just old-fashioned good versus evil. And in today's hyper-politicized environment, that's a nice thing to go back to once in a while. There's a simplicity about it that felt like a big breath of fresh air. And the whole show gave me that feeling too. Even though Netflix One Piece is based on an anime and manga that I probably wouldn't be into, I like this show. Way more than I expected to, actually. It's a fun show that doesn't get political or tainted by the ideologies of the writers, is heavy on the action and adventure, and light on the stupid stuff. It's got huge set pieces, a likable cast of characters, and despite all the silliness on display, deep down, it's a surprisingly heartfelt story, and its only message is about friendship and found family and following your dreams no matter how impossible they might seem. That's a nice message, and it's nice to know that some people in Hollywood still understand that when you're playing in someone else's sandbox with someone else's IP, it's important to do things the right way. That feels like more and more of a rarity these days, so we should all appreciate something like this while we've got it. I enjoyed Netflix One Piece a lot. This show is really charming and frankly a lot more engaging than I gave it credit for. I'd actually put One Piece up there with the better live-action anime adaptations like Alita Battle Angel and... well... yeah, I guess it's just that one. And sure, I don't know how accurate it is to the source material, but just watching it as a newbie, it sure seems to me like Netflix got this one right. Thanks so much for watching, and while you're here, do all the other YouTube things. Ding the bell icon and follow my social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. The links are down there, and the algorithm has been working overtime to stop me from reaching my goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It even unsubscribed like 100 people from the channel a few days ago. So I need all of you to help me flip the algorithm off by hitting that thumbs up, leaving a comment, subscribing if you haven't already, and making sure you're still subscribed. This is why I always remind you to do that. That's all for now. Go check out Netflix One Piece if you haven't yet. I'll be back with more soon. Take care, stay tuned, I'll see you next time.